It's okay. Here you go, sweetie. This is for you.
Scrape of chairs on stone. Then silence fell so fast it felt heavy, like a door slamming shut inside the chest. Every man at the table watched the girl standing there, her shoes too thin for the cold, her hands shaking as they rested on the dark wood. She was barely tall enough to see over the edge. The boss did not look angry at first. He looked confused. No one walked up to him. No one spoke without being asked. No one placed money on his table unless they were ready to lose much more than that. $5? He stared at it as if it were a foreign object. Then he lifted his eyes to the girl. She did not flinch. Her name was Sophia. She had practiced what she was going to say all night, whispering it into a cracked mirror while her mother slept on the couch behind her. Wrapped in a coat that still smelled like bleach from the cleaning job she could no longer finish, Sophia had promised herself she would not cry. Crying made people turn away. Crying made them uncomfortable. She needed them to listen. What she said next did not sound brave. It sounded small, but it landed like a blow. She told him her mom was dying. She told him the hospital wanted money first. She told him she did not know where else to go. She said everyone said he was the strongest man in the city, and she asked if strong people were allowed to help. Voss felt something tighten behind his ribs. He had heard begging before. He had heard lies dressed as truth. He had heard grown men swear on everything they loved. None of it sounded like this. This was not a plea shaped by fear alone. It was shaped by hope, thin and stubborn. Around them, the men stayed still. No one reached for the girl. No one laughed. Even the guards at the door forgot to shift their weight. The boss's name was Marco Vale. The city spoke it quietly, like a warning. He had built his power on control, on never showing doubt, on teaching the world that softness was a weakness you paid for. He had buried friends, enemies, and parts of himself with the same steady hands. And now, a child was standing in front of him, asking a question he had spent a lifetime avoiding. To understand why Marco froze, you had to understand where his strength came from and what it had cost him. Marco grew up in a one-room apartment that smelled of oil and old bread. His father worked until his hands cracked, then drank until his voice rose. His mother learned to stay quiet. Marco learned early that silence kept you alive. Words were promises, and promises got broken. As a boy, he watched his mother choose which bills not to pay. He watched her cough into a rag and hide the red stains. He learned that help never came unless you took it. When she died, the hospital sent a letter, not condolences. He carried that memory like a stone in his pocket. As he grew older, Marco became what the streets rewarded. He learned to read rooms, to sense weakness, to strike before being struck. His rise was fast and bloody, though the blood rarely touched him directly. He wore clean suits. He let others do the shouting. The city saw him as a villain. Some saw him as protection. Marco saw himself as a man who survived. And yet some nights, when the city quieted and the lights blurred into lines through his window, he remembered the smell of bleach and the sound of shallow breathing in the dark. He had sworn never to be powerless again. Sophia did not know any of this. She only knew her mother, Alina, used to sing while she worked. She used to braid Sophia's hair with careful fingers and promise that things would get better. Then Alina collapsed in a stairwell with a bucket still in her hand. The doctor had spoken softly, eyes tired. Infection, treatment, time-sensitive, money. Sophia counted coins at the kitchen table. She sold her backpack. She asked neighbors who looked away. Someone whispered a name. Someone said, "If anyone can help, it's him." But don't go alone. Don't go at all. Sophia went anyway. The conflict did not explode. It pressed in slowly. One of Marco's men finally moved, clearing his throat, reminding the boss of who he was. This was not a charity hall. This was not how things worked. Rules existed for a reason. Marco raised a hand without looking back. He studied the girl's face, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she stood straight, like she had decided that fear would not show. The $5 were folded neatly, each bill smoothed as if respect might be contagious. He asked her why him. Sophia answered because everyone else said no. And because strong people don't need excuses. The words settled deep. Around them, the silence stretched. The men at the table felt it, though they did not understand it. This was not a threat they could calculate. This was not a deal they could negotiate. This was a mirror held too close. Marco felt the weight of the room shift. Authority leaned one way. Humanity leaned another. He thought of his mother's cough. He thought of unopened letters. He thought of the promise he had made to himself and the lie hidden inside it. He told Sophia to wait. She did not smile. She did not thank him. She nodded once like someone who knew waiting well. Minutes passed. They felt longer. Marco stood. Chairs scraped back. His men tensed, ready for orders they could understand. He walked past Sophia without touching her and disappeared through a side door. What happened next did not involve shouting or threats. It involved phone calls made quietly, names spoken with respect, favors called in that had nothing to do with fear. By the time Marco returned, the room was different. He knelt in front of Sophia, so they were eye to eye. The men behind him stared at the floor. He told her the hospital would take her mother now. He told her a car would be waiting. He pushed the $5 back toward her. Sophia shook her head. She said it was for asking. Something broke then, soft and final. Marco did not argue. The power shift was not loud. It was complete. Elena survived. The treatment worked. The infection retreated like a tide pulled back by something stronger. When she woke, Sophia was asleep beside her bed, her small hand wrapped around her mother's finger. Elena never learned every detail. She only knew someone had helped when no one else would. She sent a letter, written carefully, full of gratitude and fear. It was returned unopened, but a basket of groceries appeared at her door every month after that. Marco watched from a distance. He did not become a saint. The city did not change overnight, but something in him did. He began to notice the small things. The workers cleaning floors late at night. The children waiting outside clinics. The quiet places where power could be used without applause. Once, when a young man mocked him for going soft, Marco answered calmly, "Strength isn't proven by how much fear you create. It's proven by how much fear you remove." The words spread, not as legend, but as a warning of a different kind. Years later, Sophia would stand on a stage, diploma in hand, scanning the crowd. She would not see Marco. He would be somewhere unseen. Watching a future he had nudged instead of crushed, he would remember $5 on a dark table. He would remember a question that froze him. In the end, the city did not remember the night as a turning point. Cities rarely do, but one little girl did. One mother did. And one man learned that silence could be more powerful than fear. Because sometimes the strongest people are the ones who stop, listen, and choose to help when no one is watching. If this story moved you, take a moment to share where you're watching from and what you felt. Stories like this remind us that respect, kindness, and quiet courage still matter. Subscribe for more stories that honor the strength we don't always see.